If I told you there's a magnetic force within femininity that can completely transform the way a man behaves towards you, simply through your serene presence and unhurried nature, would you believe it? There's a truth about male psychology that few understand. A man is deeply drawn to what he can't easily control or possess. I know exactly what it's like to feel that urge to keep in touch, to reply to his messages right away, to always be available when he shows up. You're not the first woman to feel like you need to chase after him to keep his attention, that if you don't show constant interest, he might drift away or find someone else. And no, it doesn't mean you're too needy or that you're doing anything wrong. But here's what male psychology reveals. When you stop chasing, when you anchor yourself in your own feminine energy and allow him to come to you, something primal awakens in his mind. The greatest scholars of human behavior have discovered that men have a psychological programming that makes them intensely value what they need to pursue. And until you know this, you'll keep readily offering what he most needs to strive to achieve. Your feminine energy is too precious to be wasted on pursuits. And today, you'll discover how the simple act of not chasing can awaken in him a fascination that goes far beyond any strategy or emotional game. There's an ancient instinct buried deep within the male psyche that most women are completely unaware of. It's almost as if every man carries within him the spirit of an ancestral hunter, programmed to value challenge, mystery, and the thrill of the chase. This isn't about manipulation or playing games, but understanding that he's been shaped both by evolution and society to feel fulfilled when he has to work for something worthwhile. When you're not chasing him, when you keep your own life vibrant, regardless of his presence or absence, you ignite something within him that goes far beyond superficial interest. You awaken what psychologists call perceived value. He begins to realize you're not available to just anyone, that your attention and energy aren't freely given. Notice how his behavior shifts when you're simply not always accessible. When you don't instantly reply to his messages, when you don't rearrange your schedule to accommodate his, when you show him that you have a full and fascinating life independent of him. Something clicks in his mind, a curiosity that wasn't there before. It's fascinating to see how a man reacts when he encounters a woman who doesn't need his constant validation. He starts to wonder, why isn't she chasing me like the others? This simple question sparks a productive restlessness within him, a need to understand who this woman is who doesn't behave predictably. The woman who isn't chasing becomes an enigma, and the male brain is naturally drawn to enigmas. He wants to unravel, understand, conquer what he can't easily categorize. Your self-assuredness becomes the greatest psychological aphrodisiac there is. But here's what you need to understand. This only works when it's authentic. When you're genuinely centered in your own life, connected to your dreams, your friends, your projects, and your purpose. It's not about faking disinterest. It's about cultivating a life so rich that he becomes a complement, not the center. Psychology unveils something profound about the male mind. Men value things in direct proportion to the effort required to obtain them. It's as if there's an invisible scale within his mind, constantly weighing what's too easy against what presents a worthy challenge for his time and energy. When you're always available, always responding quickly, always rearranging yourself to accommodate his needs, you inadvertently signal that there's no need for him to exert any effort, and that, paradoxically, diminishes the value he places on your presence. It's not cruelty on his part, it's simply how the male brain is wired to function. The woman who doesn't chase intuitively understands this dynamic. She understands that her feminine energy is a rare gift, and rare gifts aren't bestowed indiscriminately. She cultivates a magnetic presence that attracts naturally, without needing to chase or convince anyone of her worth. Imagine the energetic difference. A woman who is constantly texting, calling, trying to make plans, versus a woman who is deeply connected to herself, living her life to the fullest, and who, when she does connect with him, offers her presence as a conscious gift. Which one do you think awakens more fascination in the male mind? The answer lies in rarity. Men are accustomed to women who chase, who make everything easy, who are always available. When he encounters one who doesn't behave that way, who has her own rhythms and priorities, something awakens within him. A genuine curiosity, a need to understand and earn the attention of this special woman. There's an ancient wisdom in the feminine that understands this naturally. It's the wisdom of the goddess who doesn't beg for adoration, but simply exists in her magnificence and allows others to approach when they're ready to honor her appropriately. When you stop chasing, you're not being cold or calculating. You're honoring your own feminine energy and allowing him to experience the psychological pleasure of the pursuit, something every man deeply seeks, even if he's not always consciously aware of it. Now let's bring this into everyday life. How exactly does a woman show she's not chasing without seeming uninterested or cold? The answer lies in the energy you carry yourself with, more than the specific things you do. First, pay attention to your communication habits. Instead of always starting conversations, let him come to you sometimes. Instead of replying to every message instantly, reply when it feels natural, when you genuinely have something interesting to share, not just out of obligation or worry. Second, hold on to your own priorities. If you have a dance class, a get-together with friends, a personal project, or simply some time for yourself, don't drop it the moment he appears. Show that your life is full and that he's part of it, but not the whole thing. Third, practice being present when you're together, rather than worrying about the future. When you meet, be completely there. Enjoy the moment, but don't get lost in wondering where things are headed or trying to secure the next date. That peaceful presence is magnetic. The key difference is that a woman who isn't chasing acts from a place of abundance, not scarcity. She's not trying to cling or hold on. She's offering her energy as a gift, trusting that if he's the right man, he'll value it and reciprocate. Notice, too, how you react when he pulls back for a bit or doesn't get in touch for a few days. A woman who chases feels panicked, imagines worst-case scenarios, sends messages trying to reconnect. A woman who doesn't chase uses that time to connect even more deeply with herself, knowing that if he comes back, great, and if he doesn't, she'll still be whole. This attitude isn't indifference, it's sacred self-preservation. It's understanding that you can't force anyone to stay in your life, but you can make sure that only people who genuinely value you have access to your energy. It's truly fascinating to see how a man reacts when he meets a woman who isn't chasing after him. At first, there's this initial surprise, He's used to a certain pattern of behavior, and suddenly, he's faced with something completely different. And that surprise? It sparks curiosity, which is the first little step towards fascination. Then, he starts questioning his own actions. If he used to be a bit careless, taking his time to reply, canceling plans at the last minute, or always putting you on the back burner, he suddenly realizes those things could mean losing your attention, and that makes him automatically adjust. The really interesting thing is, this all happens without you having to explain anything, give ultimatums, or make a scene. It's simply the energy of a woman who's centered in herself, and that communicates everything. I value myself, it says, and if you want to be a part of my life, you need to show that you value me too. That quiet, energetic message is so much more powerful than any conversation. Neurologically, when he needs to put in the effort to win your attention, his brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter of pleasure and reward. It's the same chemical reaction that happens when he's achieving something important at work or reaching a personal goal. You become associated with feelings of accomplishment and fulfillment. On the other hand, when everything is too easy, when you're always available and predictable, there's no dopamine rush. Instead, there might even be a subtle boredom, a lack of stimulation that his brain interprets as a lack of value or challenge. The woman who isn't chasing also awakens what psychologists call the fear of loss in him. Not a neurotic fear, but a healthy awareness that she's special, and that if he doesn't treat her right, he could lose her. That productive fear motivates him to become a better version of himself within the relationship. You might start to notice these changes when he becomes more attentive, more present, more interested in your feelings and opinions. When he starts making plans in advance, including you in important parts of his life, treating you like a priority and not just an option. But it's important to acknowledge the hurdles and pitfalls that can arise along the way. The first challenge is breaking free from your own ingrained habits. If you've been taught since you were little that to be loved, you need to please, that you should always be available, that you must make things easy for others, then easing back might feel almost impossible at first. There's also the fear of being misunderstood, You might worry he'll think you're not interested, that you're being aloof or too proud. But here's the truth. If a man interprets your self-worth and healthy boundaries as a lack of interest, then he probably wasn't ready to love you the way you deserve to be loved anyway. Another obstacle is the anxiety that comes when you break the pattern of always being the one to initiate. It can be unsettling to wait for him to come to you. It might feel like you're losing control. But that anxiety is temporary, and it's part of the healing process for your relationship patterns. There's also the risk of turning easing back into a cold and calculating emotional game. This happens when you act out of strategy instead of acting out of genuine self-love. The difference lies in your intention. Are you protecting yourself because you value yourself, or are you trying to manipulate his feelings? Some men may also react negatively at first, especially those who are used to you always being available. They might become confused, irritated, or even temporarily try to win back your attention with intense gestures. It's important to stand firm in your new boundaries during these testing phases. The biggest obstacle, though, might be internal. That little voice whispering that you don't deserve to be courted, that you should settle for less, that maybe you're asking for too much. That voice needs to be replaced with a new story. You deserve a love that puts in the effort for you, that sees you as the prize, not a consolation. Remember, not every man will react positively to your new stance, and that's valuable information. Those who drift away when you stop chasing were probably only interested in the convenience you offered, not in you as a person. The real shift happens when you realize that not chasing isn't just a strategy to get a guy, it's a way of life that attracts people who genuinely appreciate you. It's the difference between trying to please in order to be chosen and living so authentically that you naturally draw in those who are aligned with your energy. When you cultivate a full life, deep friendships, hobbies that inspire you, a career that fulfills you, spiritual practices that ground you, you naturally stop chasing because you're too busy living. And that energy of a woman who's fulfilled is magnetically attractive. The key is understanding that a mature man wants to feel like he chose you, not that he was chosen by you. He wants to feel like he's earned something valuable, that he's put in the effort and is worthy of your attention. When you make that process too easy, you rob him of the psychological satisfaction of the pursuit. This doesn't mean you should be inaccessible or cruel. It means you should be selective, aware of your own worth, and generous with your energy only with those who demonstrate reciprocity. It's about having discernment, not desperation. Practice recognizing the difference between a man who's genuinely interested in getting to know you and one who's just taking advantage of your availability. The first will make an effort to have deep conversations, will want to know your dreams and fears, will create opportunities to be with you. The second will passively accept everything you offer without returning the equivalent effort. The woman who doesn't chase also knows how to communicate her needs clearly and gracefully. Instead of begging for attention, she expresses what she'd like to receive and observes whether he's willing to offer it. If he's not, she doesn't insist. She simply redirects her energy to where it's valued. When you find a man who responds positively to your new stance, who feels inspired to court you, who values your independence, who makes an effort to earn your time, you'll know you've found someone capable of loving you the way you deserve. The real power of a woman who doesn't chase lies in the balance of strength and gentleness. She's not cold or distant. She's warm and welcoming to those who deserve it, but firm in her boundaries and clear about her worth. Like a flower that offers its fragrance to those who approach with care, but closes its petals when it senses a threat. This balance creates an irresistible magnetic presence. A man feels both the possibility of deep connection and the awareness that he needs to prove himself worthy. This awakens the best in his masculine nature, the protector, the emotional supporter, the partner who wants to grow alongside her. Mature feminine energy understands that it doesn't need to chase love, it simply needs to embody it. When you become a woman who deeply loves herself, who cherishes her energy as something sacred, who lives with purpose and joy, you naturally become attractive to men who are also at a higher level of awareness. There's a fundamental difference between being alone out of fear of opening up and being alone by conscious choice. The woman who doesn't chase has learned the difference. She's not afraid of love. She's afraid of diminishing herself for someone who can't recognize her value. When you reach this level of emotional maturity, relationships become a dance, not a struggle. You offer your presence, he offers his. You open up when you feel safe, he creates that safety with consistent actions. You allow him to win you over, and he feels honored to have earned your attention. This creates a positive cycle where you both feel valued and inspired to give your best. He strives to be his best self because he realizes you're worth it, and you open up because you feel he's worthy of your trust. It's the kind of dynamic that creates lasting and fulfilling relationships for both of you. The woman who doesn't chase becomes a beacon. She doesn't pursue, she shines. And those who are ready for her light naturally gravitate towards her, while those who aren't prepared will drift away on their own, saving both of you from unnecessary heartache. Now let's practice integrating this energy into your daily life. Find a quiet moment today and sit comfortably. Place one hand on your heart and the other on your abdomen. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, how can I honor my feminine energy today without needing anyone's approval? Maybe it's dedicating an hour to something that truly makes your heart sing, regardless of whether it impresses anyone. Perhaps it's sending a loving message to a friend instead of waiting for him to reach out. Maybe it's simply looking in the mirror and acknowledging the powerful and lovable woman you are. Also, practice observing your impulses. When you feel the urge to send that unnecessary text, to call just to check in, to make yourself available when he hasn't shown reciprocal interest, pause for a moment. Breathe and redirect that energy into something that nourishes you. Create small rituals of self-love that remind you of your worth. It could be lighting a candle before a bath, writing down 3 things you're grateful for, or simply spending a few minutes in silence connecting with your breath. These moments create a solid inner foundation that makes seeking external validation unnecessary. The truth about the power of a woman who doesn't chase is that it doesn't lie in techniques or strategies, but in a silent inner revolution. It's when you understand that your worth doesn't depend on being chosen by someone, but on having the courage to choose yourself first. When you stop chasing, you're not playing a game, you're living a truth. The truth that you are complete, valuable, and worthy of a love that puts in the effort for you. And that truth, radiating through your presence, awakens in mature men something they didn't even know they were looking for. The joy of courting a woman who knows and values herself. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the freedom of not needing anyone to feel whole, and at the same time, the openness to receive someone who can recognize and honor that wholeness. That's the sacred dance of the conscious feminine. Attracting without pursuing, loving without losing yourself, shining without needing to prove anything to anyone.